In the dead of night, in the sky of a city, the sounds of Kayden's battle with his rivals echoed. Some flashes of light could be seen. The fight was highly uneven. Kayden was fighting against several enemies. The opponents attacked together and delivered an almost lethal blow, causing Kayden to fall to the ground. Fallen on the ground, with a very serious injury and exhausted after expending a lot of energy in the fight. His breathing was weak, and he was sweating profusely. He needed to quickly find a way to escape unnoticed. Kayden could only think that, if it weren't for the multiple enemies attacking at once, he wouldn't have been in this situation. In the alley, he could sense the presence of the enemies, and knew he needed to do something to restore his energy. At that moment, he hears the yawn of a large cat in the alley. Kayden looks and notices the cat, imagining it might work. He had never done it before, transmuting his body into a cat. The two-tone cat, yellow with white, was lying on some crates, watching the young man's reaction. As Kayden approaches the cat, a huge beam of light envelopes the entire area, completing his transmutation. Dawn breaks over the city. Stores are preparing to open, and the first customer at a pet shop is a very enthusiastic student. He looked at all the cat products with great excitement. Gazing at the shelves, the boy noticed some treats. He could only think about how many cats would love all those new items. He also planned to take advantage of the fact that the shop had restocked a treat he used to love buying some time ago. He paused and thought he wanted to take them all, but there were so many that he didn't know how to do it. He ended up deciding to take them all, making the pet shop owner very excited and happy. Walking back home, he realizes that he had gone out to buy food for himself, but ended up buying only for the cats. But that didn't matter to him. What really mattered was that the cats would be happy with all those purchases. Nearby, while waiting to cross the street, a boy drops his ball. He watches as the ball rolls into the street, and the boy runs after it. He sees the car approaching the boy who was chasing after his ball. He quickly glances at the boy. His eyes widen, and he starts to sweat. He had to do something. With the car's headlights already glaring at the boy, who had frozen in fear, the kind young man hears the screeching of the car's brakes and, like a flash, darts across the street among the people and grabs the boy. Everything happened so quickly. By the time the ball hit the ground, the boy was no longer there. They were now on the sidewalk, out of the street. The boy was safe, and the young man breathed a sigh of relief, hugging him. The boy looked at him, not fully understanding what had happened. The young man checked to see if the boy was alright and thanked the heavens that he wasn't hurt. What a scare he had taken. People on the sidewalk began to comment, asking each other, "Did you see what happened? That was dangerous. Where was the boy?" The child's savior could only think, "I'm glad I was able to save him using my abilities." The boy's mother, checking to see if he was okay, asked if he was hurt, and said she was very worried about him. The child said he was fine and, pointing to the crowd, mentioned that the young man had saved him from the car. However, the mother couldn't distinguish who the young man was in the crowd. He thought that he had used his abilities reflexively, but that day, he had managed to save someone without being seen, though he knew that if he wasn't careful, one day he might be discovered. In the evening, the young man was talking to the cats, telling them that he had been delayed because of an incident. Placing the treats he had bought earlier at the pet shop, he noticed the cats were acting differently. Concerned, he asked the cats what was happening with them. The cats meowed, trying to communicate. He was very worried because none of the cats were eating, and he had bought everything with so much love. One of the cats meowed, catching his attention, and seemed to be distancing itself. He then stood up and began to follow the cat, asking why they were acting strange and not eating today. The cats seemed to want to tell him something, but since they couldn't, they kept walking, and the young man followed them. The young man asked if they wanted to say something and if he should continue following them. The kittens kept meowing, and the young man followed, asking where they wanted him to go. When the cats stopped at an alley but didn't enter it, the young man asked if Alice had already arrived. Looking into the alley, the young man was very startled to see a two-toned cat, yellow with white. Of course, being a cat lover, he didn't hesitate and picked up the cat to take it home. The cat, unconscious after receiving the young man's care, was lying on a bed and slowly began to regain consciousness. Little by little, it managed to open its eyes and saw the ceiling of a house. Soon after, with some effort, it also saw one of its white paws. It lifted its two-toned paw, white with yellow, startled, looking at the image. How did it suddenly have paws? Observing its soft body, it realized that it was now a cat and remembered that, in that moment of desperation. Seeing the soft kitten lying on the crates and with no time to find another body, he had extended his hands to the cat's head and started the transmutation. Using the last of his power, the transmutation was successfully completed. This meant he had succeeded in transmuting into a different life form. Like a cat. The large, two-toned cat heard a high-pitched voice saying that he had woken up. It was the voice of the young man who had saved him, who told him that when he found him, he couldn't even stand and was afraid he had died. Very happy, arms wide open and making various gestures, the young man said that now the kitten was fine and didn't need to be scared. The young man, smiling broadly, looked at the cat, but the cat could only think that the child had picked him up while he was unconscious. Very happy and almost unable to believe that the kitten was really okay, the young man asked him to wait a moment and went to get something. However, the cat wasn't the least bit eager for the young man's return, finding it very irritating. The young man returned with 2 bowls in hand, one with treats and the other with cat-safe milk. The young man continued to question the cat, asking why it was in such a state and why it was covered in blood. Although the young man had cleaned and cared for the cat, he wondered for a moment if there might be something he had missed. Pushing the bowls closer to the cat, he said, "Here, kitty, here's your food." Very happy and attentive, the young man told the cat that it could eat everything to get better soon. However, the cat looked at the scene with anger. He was bored with that place. The cat watched with hatred as the young man opened a can of wet treats to put in the bowl and served to his cat. Still talking to the cat, the young man looked at him and asked him to eat everything to get well soon. The young man was very worried about the kitten. The cat then smelled that strong fish aroma and got irritated, wondering if that pest really had the audacity to serve feline food to Kayden. The young man kept insisting, staring at him and asking him to eat to get better soon. The cat also made a very strange face. He didn't like that situation one bit. Lying down, the cat heard his stomach rumble and tremble with hunger. There was no other choice, thought the cat. If they believe I'm a feline, then I'll act like one. He decided he would just drink a little of that milk in the bowl, just to regain his energy. However, while distracted by drinking the milk, he was suddenly grabbed. The young man started to hold the cat up. At that moment, he was determined to check if the cat was male or female. The cat looked at him and said, "What do you think you're doing? How dare you?" The young man heard a firm, masculine voice and looked around, thinking he might have left the television on. Still holding the cat, he asked if the cat had also heard that voice. But Kayden wasn't interested in any of that. He looked at the young man and warned him to let him go immediately, or he'd cut his ears with his claws. The boy's eyes widened, petrified. He didn't know what was happening, but he thought he had heard the cat speak. Leaping back to escape, he wondered if he was really talking to a talking cat. He stayed in the corner, trembling and sweating. "I'm sure I saw this cat talk." The cat, however, warned the boy to start listening to what he was saying. If he didn't stop, he would sink his claws into him. Now, with the boy silent and quiet in the corner, the kitten walked over to him. The boy, scared in the corner with wide eyes, just watched the cat. The cat, in a very frightening tone, asked the boy what his name was. The boy didn't answer, and the cat became more irritated, shouting, "What is your name?" Furious, the cat flattened his ears and, snarling, asked the boy if he really had to repeat it again. The boy finally responded that his name was Jiwoo, and the cat said very well, and asked him to fetch a chair, pointing to it. The boy quickly ran to get the chair to make the cat happy. He placed the chair in a position for the cat to climb up and stepped back a little to observe. As it was difficult for the cat to climb the chair, Kayden imagined that it shouldn't be so hard since he was a skilled cat. With much difficulty, Kayden managed to get the entire mass of the cat's body onto the chair. He thought to himself that it took a long time to climb only because he wasn't yet accustomed to that body. After getting onto the chair, the cat sat down, and the boy just admired him. Kayden, noticing that the boy was looking at him with great admiration, grabbed him by the shirt and warned that if he told anyone, he would kill him. He realized he had been discovered faster than he had imagined, but he was controlling that boy. However, the chair had been placed in front of the mirror, and the reflection of that huge, fat cat caught his attention. Kayden, the bicolor cat, yellow with white, looked in the mirror and asked who that fat cat was. Holding his face, he said that that double chin was enormous and couldn't belong to a cat. Also squeezing his belly, thinking it was very fat, his eyes widened as he realized that the cat reflected in the mirror couldn't be him. He was very disappointed, thinking that fat, disgusting cat couldn't be the great Kayden. Unable to bear the pressure, the cat fell off the chair, and the boy, who had been watching the whole time, rushed to his aid. Thrown on the ground in a severe depression, there was Kayden, the fat cat. The boy, very scared, with the kitten in his arms, asked what had happened because, after shouting, he had fainted. Jiwoo shook the cat from side to side. Kayden didn't respond. He was very upset about having transformed into that cat. The boy begged him not to die. At that moment, Kayden responded to the boy to stop that. The boy asked the cat if he had regained consciousness. Kayden replied that he had never lost it. Putting the cat back on its two little paws, the boy was very happy and told the cat that he was scared when it lost consciousness. Kayden looked at him with a strange look, unable to imagine why this boy would care about him losing consciousness. Jiwoo looked at the cat with much love and admiration, always with a smile on his happy boyish face. On the other hand, Kayden was not happy at all with the cat's body, which he imagined was very obese. Kayden growled and got very stressed, thinking that of all the existences, he ended up in that fat sack of lard. The boy, very happy, asked for Mr. Cat's permission, but Kayden interrupted him, asking to be called by name. The boy said he had a question for Kayden, who asked him to proceed. The boy's question was how he managed to speak. The cat replied that he could speak because he was a person. The boy, repeating the answer, asked if he was a person. Kayden explained that, although he was in a cat's body at that moment, he was a person just like the boy. The boy, full of questions, continued asking Kayden if it was possible for a person to transform into a cat. The cat replied that you could see if it was possible just by looking at him, and that, in theory, he imagined it was possible. The boy's questions, which were many and were getting on Kayden's nerves, came one after another. The boy continued to ask why the cat was in that alley all covered in blood. The cat replied that it wasn't his concern either. Kayden warned the boy that, despite having met in an unexpected circumstance, he didn't need to know more than he already did. The boy said he understood, and after that, there was an awkward silence, interrupted by the cat's stomach growling. The boy tried to convince the cat to eat, telling him that, although he was human, he was now in a cat's body and should eat like a cat. He continued trying to persuade him to eat, saying that human food wouldn't be good for a cat, especially for him, who was recovering. The boy got up and said goodbye to the cat, saying he would go to the alley to feed the other cats, and asked him to eat everything. The cat, looking at the food in the bowls, imagined that the boy was right, as he had heard that human food was bad for cats. He, the great Kayden, was about to eat feline food. He thought he would try just a little to help with his recovery. However, after starting to taste that delicious feline food, with its sweet and aromatic notes, he couldn't stop eating. Kayden delighted in the food from the bowls. He ate so much that after eating, he could only lie on his back. Kayden, after eating all that feline food, refused to believe he had eaten on his own. And in his thoughts, he defended himself, saying it wasn't his fault. It was that fat cat that wouldn't stop eating. He was disappointed with the fragility of that body because he knew that if his enemies found him, he would be in deep trouble. Leaving the house very happy and excited was the boy. Kayden asked if he was going out. He replied that he was going to the veterinary center. The cat found it strange and asked the boy if he was going out at that hour. The boy said yes because he hadn't bought enough food. The boy asked Kayden if he would like to go with him. Kayden, frightened, asked the boy why he would want to go with him somewhere at that hour. The boy replied that if they went together, he wouldn't risk telling people that his cat could talk. The cat told the boy he would go with him only to make sure he kept his mouth shut. The boy was running with him outside, and he wasn't understanding anything up to that point. Kayden wanted to know what was happening and asked the boy to let him go. The boy replied that he couldn't because he was still injured. Kayden, scratching the boy, replied that he didn't want to be carried like a thing or like an ordinary cat. The fight was ugly. Kayden looked at the boy, who still didn't let him go. Kayden told the boy that he wouldn't go out in that undignified manner. Seconds later, the champion was declared. The boy placed Kayden inside his coat, his little face very happy. Kayden was feeling very happy and relieved inside the boy's coat. But he should keep in mind that he was a cat but not a cat. The boy continued walking through the streets at night with Kayden inside his coat, who at that moment wasn't finding it bad at all. They continued like this until they reached the veterinary center, where, greeting the veterinarian, The boy said he had brought the kitten for an exam. The cat realized at that moment that the stupid child had tricked the great Kayden. The veterinarian began the examination with the cat and asked Jiwoo what the cat's name was since he didn't remember seeing it there before. After hearing from the boy that the cat's name was Kayden, the veterinarian commented that for the appearance of that cat, the name was quite magnificent. The cat, in turn, only thought that he should indeed kill that veterinarian who kept examining him. The veterinarian examined the entire cat's body, the mouth, the ear, measured his temperature, and Kayden was annoyed by the embarrassment. The veterinarian told the boy that the cat only had a few scrapes, but the boy had already taken care of those. Hearing the veterinarian's words, the boy felt very relieved, knowing that the cat would now be fine. However, the cat, hearing the boy speak, didn't understand why he was still worrying about him. The veterinarian told the boy that, honestly, all that cat needed right now was a diet, and the cat still thought he should kill that veterinarian. As he said goodbye to the boy, the doctor mentioned that the cat was fine. The two walked through the deserted streets at night, with the boy feeling happy and very relieved. Suddenly, the cat heard something and asked the boy to stop for a moment, warning him that only monster cats lived in that region. Looking at a dark and empty alley, the boy found it very strange that the cat referred to monster cats. He had never heard of that before. However, upon observing the empty alley, the boy noticed that there really was a shadow there, which could indeed be a cat. Frightened by the appearance of that animal, the boy asked if that was the so-called monster cat, hugging his kitten tightly. The boy asked if that beast, which looked a lot like a tiger, was what they referred to as a cat. The boy noticed that the animal indeed exuded a different scent and, looking at the cat, asked what they should do. Kayden told the boy to run as fast as he could. The cat was surprised by the boy's skill in running, as he imagined the boy would just freeze up and be afraid. The boy kept running with his cat in his arms, running and dodging as much as possible from the tiger's attacks. Even while running and dodging, he couldn't avoid being hit by the enormous monster cat. Noticing that Jiwoo had been hit, Kayden asked if he was okay. The boy replied that he was. Kayden commented that it would be better to have a weapon. At that moment, the boy remembered that he had put a weapon in his pocket earlier. It was a stick with a soft puff at the tip. He threatened the big tiger, telling it not to come any closer. At this moment, the boy stood face to face with the big monster cat, pointing the stick with the cute little puff at the end. Kayden was on the ground next to the boy, watching the puff sway on the tip of the stick. Seeing that soft thing swaying on the tip of the stick, he wondered if this was the weapon the boy had managed to get. A few moments, the furious monster cat, which had been trying to devour them earlier, was now calm. So calm that the boy, who had both eyes closed earlier, opened one to see the monster cat's reaction. Seeing the cat swaying from side to play with the soft puff at the tip of the stick, he turned to Kayden and said that now was their chance to escape. However, he realized that the same effect that had affected the monster cat had also caught Kayden off guard. Kayden, when the human engaged in great battles, always left the enemy on the ground, admitting defeat. Comments like, "Kayden won again," and "How many were there?" were common. People would call him to join them. Others asked him to be their right hand. Many times they called him to be part of some plan to conquer the world. Others would kneel, asking him to be their leader. Kayden was snapped back to reality when he heard Jiwoo calling for him, asking what he was doing. The cat stopped playing with the plush on the tip of the stick and looked at the boy. Silence took over, and no one spoke again. The big cat seemed to be preparing. With a well-aimed leap, it managed to grab the plush, making Jiwoo very scared. The animal pulled so hard on the toy that it even managed to take the stick that was in the boy's hand along with it. Despite the boy shouting for it not to take it, the big cat landed on the other side of the alley. Now growling, the animal was in possession of their only weapon. The feline was furious in that corner, salivating and glaring at the two of them. The boy, looking at the big cat, thought about what he would do now that he had lost his weapon. The animal continued to be very angry, growling and salivating. At that moment, Jiwoo recognized a scar on the face of that big feline. He remembered where he had seen that enormous cat before. It was a normal cat when he saw it earlier. The feline, in anger, spat the toy to the other side, landing near the boy sitting on the ground, and it leaped at the boy, who reflexively dodged. Kayden, standing still, began to complain about the clumsy body and behavior of that cat that had transformed. Running, Jiwoo grabbed his cat and ran as fast as he could, increasing Kayden's fright. That big beast had lost sight of them and was breaking and tearing everything it saw in its path. It was growling through the alley, trying to find them, but it didn't see or hear them. Far away, the boy and his cat were, having descended several steps of a staircase. Everything seemed calm, and the boy decided to take a peek by going further up the stairs. He told Kayden that he was right. That was indeed a cat. He wanted to know why it was in the larger form of a normal cat. Kayden said it could be due to anger and a lack of snacks. Jiwoo thought it was safe to leave, but Kayden didn't think it was safe for other people. The boy didn't understand his depressed cat's reasoning, so he explained that the big cat would attack the next people it saw. The boy, surprised, said, "Now what?" He didn't know what to do because he hadn't thought about that before. The cat remained silent, watching quietly, and he told Jiwoo to call the appropriate authorities. The two of them looked at each other, and the boy seemed to be thinking of something. The boy, putting one of his hands on his head, said he had left his phone at home. Kayden said that then he couldn't help. The boy stated that it was just a matter of solving the problem, and that was exactly what they were going to do. Kayden wondered what on earth Jiwoo was talking about, and why he felt the need to do anything. The cat questioned the boy, who still couldn't just sit by, about what he thought he could do. The cat asked why the boy was still arguing. It wasn't his problem if someone got hurt or not. Staying silent and looking at the cat, he understood that the look on that child's face was serious. Watching from the top of the alley stairs, he told Kayden to go home before him. He would see what he could do about the other cat. He was sure that it was the same kitten from before, which was very cute and gentle. Kayden said it was okay if he was really going to do something or help. As he descended the stairs, the boy asked what Kayden had said. The cat explained that it would just be a little more, that he would give a small part of his powers to help. The boy cheered and asked if that kind of thing really existed. Kayden asked the boy to crouch down because he needed to look him in the eyes. The boy crouched, and Kayden, standing 2 steps above him, placed his paws on the boy's forehead. While he touched the boy with his paw, both remained silent, and they both quickly noticed the reaction. Still crouched down, the cat, with its paw on its forehead, began to release small sparks and light. In the alley, the cat on the upper step continued to transfer a bit of its power to Jiwoo. That wave of power was affecting the street lamps and the nearby houses. The boy was very satisfied and could feel the power coursing through his body, and even small sparks coming from his hands. The cat, very tired from transferring the power, explained that the sparks were because it had the power of lightning. Still on the last steps of the ladder, the boy was very pleased with the power, and said he would look for the big cat. However, Kayden warned him that it wouldn't be necessary, as the big cat was already at the top of the ladder. Very confident, the boy asked Kayden to stay behind him, as it could be very dangerous for him. Kayden was very upset after hearing what the boy said, as if he would run away because of some danger. Now, the cat was wondering why that child was suddenly so full of confidence. Jiwoo, silent, only observed the big cat. He asked if it was the same cat that had appeared at his house a few days ago. Despite the monstrous cat at the top of the ladder staring at them, the boy continued talking. The cat prepared and leapt decisively at the boy, who appeared to be unresponsive. Very scared, his cat, watching from the side, urged him to dodge as quickly as possible. The boy watched the wild animal's paw nearly reach his face. The giant cat's attack was precise, but still, it didn't hit the boy, who dodged almost reflexively. After that, both he and Kayden were scared by what had just happened. The enormous beast continued to launch several attacks towards the boy, who dodged each one. The cat, analyzing, realized that the boy wasn't dodging the attacks by mere luck. The boy was reading the cat's reactions and acting before it could hurt him. He attacked without even having a chance to stop for a moment. Still, he wasn't using the powers he had received. He kept dodging the huge cat and waiting for the right moment to use his powers. He couldn't waste the powers on an attack he wasn't sure would hit. The animal came full force at the boy, but that was when he was going to unleash the attack using his powers. The cat's eyes widened as it realized that wasn't the power it had given to the boy. Jiwoo managed to hit that huge beast squarely because it was no match for him. But the final attack would be the end for that great beast. With those blows from the boy, the cat realized he was a user of the speed power. And there was the boy descending from the skies for the perfect attack. Seconds before, he had apologized to Mr. Cat. His strike resulted in a huge flash, leaving him sitting exhausted on the ground and the beast unconscious. The cat, calling the boy, said it was curious about why he wanted so much to fight that battle. Walking over to the boy who was sitting on the ground and the other unconscious cat, the boy was very worried about whether the cat was dead or unconscious. A power surrounded the cat and slowly faded, revealing its original face. Now it was on the ground in its normal form, and the boy recognized it. The three left as quickly as possible, as people were starting to arrive due to the noise. Somewhere in the city, a man was jumping from building to building, stopping on top of one of them. He was worried because the device couldn't locate the species. It hadn't even been an hour since he had located the species somewhere nearby. Now he would have to activate the seal with his abilities, and that was precisely what he was trying to avoid. He had no choice. He wouldn't risk losing that opportunity if the experiment had been successful. Releasing his power, the man high up on the building began to summon the specimen, ensuring that wherever it was, it would return. A little distance from that place, the boy was at home, taking care of the injured animal. Kayden informed the boy that the cat was only slightly electrified. The boy wanted to take it to the vet. Cat didn't think it was a good idea. If the cat transformed again, what would happen at the hospital? The boy, looking at that small animal, knew his cat was right but was still concerned. "It's better this way. Stop complaining. He'll be fine," Kayden said to Jiwoo. For a moment, Kayden remained silent, looking at the animal on the sofa. He didn't know it could transform. He continued thinking that a regular cat wouldn't do that on its own. It seemed like an awakened being. The boy was trying to tell his cat his secret but couldn't find a way. Losing patience, the bicolor cat asked what he was trying to say. The boy was trying to explain what he had done in the fight against the striped kitten, and Kayden asked if it was about his speed. The boy confirmed and asked his cat to keep it a secret. Kayden was listening attentively. The boy continued, saying he wouldn't like others to know. The cat didn't like it at all and said not to go around telling people he had awakened abilities. Jiwoo didn't know what awakened abilities were and asked his cat what they were. The cat found it strange that he didn't know what they were since he was awakened. The boy was shocked to learn what it was. The bicolor cat observed the boy for a while in silence, just analyzing. It concluded that he really had no idea he was an awakened one, and said there were rare cases like his. Excited, the boy wanted to ask a question and even raised his hand to do so. He asked if he was something called an awakened one, and if that speed ability was something awakened people had. After these questions, Kayden knew it wouldn't be easy to explain all this to him. Taking a breath, he answered yes. The boy wanted to know if there were people like him, other awakened ones. His bicolor cat answered yes, and that he was looking at an awakened one right there. He could hardly believe his cat was also an awakened one. He asked if the cat had special abilities like him. Was that what the bicolor cat was saying? He asked if he really thought a normal person could transform into a cat like he did. The boy, having his cat's affirmative response, was stunned and very emotional, even going silent. The cat noticed the change in Jiwoo's face, who was now silent, especially since he never shut up. Moving to the side, he took a good look at the boy to make sure he was okay. Very emotional, the boy began to apologize for crying. He had always thought he was the only abnormal one. The cat asked if up until that moment, the boy hadn't told anyone about his special abilities. With the boy's affirmative response, the cat could understand him. Being awakened and wanting to live among others wouldn't be easy. He told the cat that even after his mother discovered his abilities, she asked him never to use them. He continued, saying he was always scared but didn't tell his mother to avoid worrying her. He imagined that if they found out, they might kidnap him and experiment on his body. His cat continued standing there, watching him and listening to his stories. In tears, he said he was happy to know there were others like him, not just Mr. Kayden. The bicolor cat, turning its face, commented that it also felt a certain relief. After these stories, the three remained silent in the room, Kayden facing Jiwoo, while the striped cat recovered on the sofa. The boy broke the silence, asking his bicolor cat to teach a bit more about the awakened ones. Kayden began explaining that people with special abilities are called ability users or awakened ones. He understood. It was like the heroes in movies. Depending on their abilities, they could do different things. Kayden explained that the core of his ability was moving at high speed, but he could do more with that speed. The boy asked if, over his life, his powers had become more powerful, and he explained that they had. Excited, he said that lately, he could use them for 3 to 5 seconds. The cat said it understood because he hadn't trained his abilities. He was trying to hide them. He was curious and asked if all awakened ones trained their abilities. Kayden replied that they did. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he said he still wanted to continue hiding his abilities. Watching the boy get embarrassed about wanting to hide his abilities, Kayden said he was a special case, and soon heard his stomach growling. The boy apologized for interrupting Kayden with the growling of his stomach and said he hadn't eaten since dinner. He asked for a moment to grab something to eat, leaving the room and going to the kitchen. He grabbed a slice of bread from the table, which was next to the room with no walls separating them. As he was about to bite into the bread, he noticed his cat watching him from the sofa. He turned to make sure it was really the cat, and saw the cat looking, both of them silent. He immediately put some kibble in the bowl so his cat could eat as well. Crouched down next to the cat's food bowl was Jiwoo. Realizing that his bicolor cat hadn't eaten either, Kayden wasn't satisfied. He needed to eat cat food again while Jiwoo was supporting him. Staring at the food bowl in silence, he seemed to be gathering the courage to eat. He realized he had no other option. He was hungry, and that was the only alternative. The boy also began eating his food. Sitting on the floor, eating his bread, he watched his cat eating its kibble, while the other cat was also recovering there. Slowly, an energy began to cover Jiwoo's neighborhood, gradually taking over the houses and streets. It was the ability of the man who was on top of the building searching for his specimen, the striped cat on the boy's sofa. Kayden, sensing something, quickly turned around. He was feeling better and managed to sense something coming. He felt that energy surrounding the house and knew it was bad. At the window, he confirmed it was energy and started to assess what it was. He was interrupted by a familiar sound, a powerful growl. Turning to the sofa, he saw the striped cat, which had now turned back into that furious beast. The boy also saw the large striped cat, which this time wasn't trying to attack them but was instead trying to escape. It knocked over everything in its path, looking for a way out. And when it found one, it leaped and took off, seeming to be in a hurry. This was unexpected and left both of them confused about what had made the striped cat become monstrous again. The boy, astonished, told Kayden that the cat had fled, and Kayden said it was impossible not to notice that. Kayden knew that the striped cat shouldn't be on its feet yet since it hadn't recovered. This had to do with that energy. He noticed that the boy was preparing for something, even putting on a cap. Suspicious, he asked Jiwoo what he was doing, even though he already had an idea of the answer. Putting the cap on his head, the boy replied that he had to find the beast cat to avoid hurting anyone. The cat wanted to know if the boy was going to hunt the monster cat again and warned that the first time was unavoidable. But now it wasn't. The boy cared about people, but what he really wanted was to help the striped kitten. He wasn't going to let anything happen. The cat observed the boy and was sure that if he left him alone, the situation would get much worse. So, he took a deep breath before telling the boy that he would go with him. He wanted to know why the striped cat had changed, and the boy was very happy about that. Seeing the boy's joy, the cat warned him not to misunderstand. He was not going because he cared about him. The two went outside, with the boy thanking the cat and saying he felt better with him. Outside, that strong energy still lingered, which had made the striped cat transform and run away. The boy, at full speed, was running to find the transformed cat, which represented a significant threat. He was carrying Kayden inside his jacket, who noticed that his movements were as good as before the fight. He continued talking to Jiwoo from inside the jacket, sure that speed could be awakened. Running, he had indeed noticed he was faster, and wanted to know about these other abilities. He explained that the parts of his body affected by movement would continue to develop, such as his nervous system. He was understanding his cat's explanation when Kayden asked him to turn left, and that's what he did at high speed, holding his cat inside the jacket. Kayden asked how long he could stay active. He replied that since it had been a few hours since he last ran, he thought he could last for 2 seconds. Kayden was analyzing the answer while being carried inside the jacket. Running, the boy asked about the direction to go, and how he knew which way to take. Kayden knew because parts of the energy presence that had surrounded the house were still in the air. His guess was that the incident was related to an awakened one, and that the monster cat was going to meet him. Amazed, the boy asked if it was another like the two of them. Kayden told him to get ready. It was all silent, but the bandages used in the feline's treatment were lying on the ground. The large cat was walking almost unable to, responding to the call of the awakened one who had summoned him. That man appeared in the shadows, saying that the specimen had shown up after hearing his call. Looking at the monster cat, he told it that it wouldn't be able to escape those cells in its current state, making the large cat remember the captivity and the bad man conducting experiments, using it as a guinea pig. Not understanding the specimen's reaction of not surrendering, even with the seal ensuring its obedience. The large cat showed it wasn't being fully controlled and growled at the man who was crouching in front of it. The man noticed the hostility and realized that the seal placed during the procedure had broken. Observing the specimen growling and staring at him, he saw that it had become stronger. For the victory of the awakened one observing, as an experiment had managed to awaken the cat. The boy arriving at the location pointed out by Kayden saw the striped cat he was searching for with a man, and showed Kayden where they were. His cat observed the scene, trying to recognize the man with the monster cat. He realized something was troubling him, which even scared the boy, making him tremble. Pulling Jiwoo to hide for now until they were sure of who it was. Hidden, Kayden took a good look, and seeing it too, observed with the boy that the striped kitten from before was there. As he looked, he only saw a man. The cat explained to him that it was an awakened one. But the boy, looking, saw nothing different about the man who was facing the cat he was searching for. Analyzing the man, the bicolor cat noticed the connection between them. He was convinced that the earlier energy was for a summon. Looking, he realized it wasn't one of the trackers searching for him, and felt relieved. From the way that man's powers flowed, he was only there for that large cat. The striped cat leaped towards the man. That enormous cat wanted to attack him. Noticing he was about to be attacked, the man extended one hand, freezing the cat in midair. Then he threw it against the wall. It was a strong specimen and didn't die easily. The monster cat, after hitting the wall, landed on its feet. It was badly injured and exhausted. Even so, that awakened man attacked him fiercely with his powers, asking if he was sure of himself. He threw him against the wall again. This time, he couldn't land on his feet, nor could he get up. Even with that man ordering him to get up, the striped cat was too injured and couldn't move anymore. A little further ahead, Jiwoo saw what the man was doing to the cat. With him, Kayden saw how skilled that man was. Undoubtedly a very strong awakened. Kayden noticed in the subtle movements of his hands that he had such control over his own powers. The man was still not satisfied and asked the cat lying on the ground if that was all it had. With the striped cat on the ground, hurt and smaller, it was still angry. The man made his assessments and realized that the cat had gained greater physical strength and was stronger than an ordinary cat. Looking at the cat lying on the ground, the man kicked it and said that it had not been defeated yet. The boy, adjusting his cap, didn't know what was happening, but he wasn't going to just stand by. He was going to save the striped cat. Kayden tried to persuade him, saying that the man was an awakened and warned that Jiwoo was no longer in the same situation as when he fought with the cat. Jiwoo didn't care if the man was awakened or not. He knew that no one had the right to do what that guy was doing to the kitten. "Stop being naive," said the angry cat. "Kayden, what do you think you can do?" Jiwoo was listening to him and was aware of the risk he was about to face. Kayden spoke a lot, trying to convince him, saying it was impossible to win and that he should get that into his head. He watched the boy silently for a brief moment and even thought he had managed to convince him. The striped cat got up and stood in front of that man, who was surprised to see that it was still able to snarl so fiercely. The man looked at the specimen and asked why it wasn't fleeing, saying that trying to attack him was disappointing. He was still speaking when, seeing the opportunity, Jiwoo moved very quickly towards the cat. He crouched quickly in front of the awakened, grabbed the badly injured feline, and the man hadn't even seen him arrive. He was furious with him for trying to steal his experiment like that, and worse, catching him off guard. He launched a wave of power towards the boy who was trying to steal his experience. However, before it could reach him, the boy had already left the scene right before his eyes. He searched all around and couldn't see him. He was there and disappeared in less than a second. That man was fearing he had been found by a tracker. He knew he shouldn't have spread all that energy. He thought he had been discovered and needed to leave before the other trackers arrived. Now the place was empty. Jiwoo fled with Kayden and the striped cat while the man fled from the potential trackers. Far from there, the boy was running with the cat in his arms, and Kayden, furious with him, heard that they had succeeded. Running, Kayden complained, and Jiwoo looked at the unconscious striped cat in his arms. Smiling, Jiwoo didn't care, as he wouldn't leave the striped cat with that man even if he was dead. He had now managed to annoy his bicolor cat, who looked at him with reproachful eyes. Jiwoo replied, looking at him, that he had to try. He couldn't just stand still. The cat running watched. He was serious, and the worst part was that he was serious. With the striped cat wrapped in his coat, All smiles, Kayden told him to stop being an idiot and to stop laughing. Drooping his ears, he realized that the boy was hopeless. But who would have thought they actually succeeded? The boy, even knowing he annoyed his cat, told him he was very happy at that moment. Jiwoo said that, on that day, he had learned about the powers he had wanted to hide so much, and, shortly after that, had the strength and determination to act. Looking at the striped kitten in his arms and running to his house with Kayden, the cat told him to stay and said that wasn't a reason to be proud. Guys, the video is over. I just wanted to ask for your attention real quick. For those who aren't subscribed, please subscribe and leave a like, it helps a lot. 87% of the audience isn't subscribed, so if you want to help, please subscribe.